Now, we can confirm that the U.S. is withdrawing some personnel from major bases.
Big things happening here today. Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. Today, we've got a couple leaders stepping down, resigning the same day that Mark Carney lands in China to meet with the Premier of China. He'll be meeting with Xi Jinping later on Friday. We also have Iran directly threatening Donald Trump's existence. Let's jump into this. Here we go. Mark Carney has landed in Beijing. Of course, they play the same signature music. They always do. In every single video, they play the same music. So Carney shaking hands, chit-chatting. You notice this guy here is the same guy that was on CTV talking to Vasi Kapellos. So he's rolling in with the gang. He looks right at home, so comfortable back in China, right, Mark? He's in the place he wants to be. You got Mario posting this. Liberals campaigned on 51st state and Trump, not realizing Carney's setting up a vassal state of China. If you think Trump is concerned about Taiwan, wait and see what happens when China starts investing in Canada's oil and critical minerals. This is the truth here. China urges Canada to break from U.S. independence as Carney visits Beijing. There's a lot on the line here today. Bruce posting this clip here of Anita Anand, basically not trying to downplay but upplay the situation.
I want to take a moment right off the top to stress the magnitude of this visit. The first visit to China by a Canadian Prime Minister since 2017. Prime Minister Carney received an explicit invitation from President Xi to come to China after conversations with Premier Li and President Xi in the fall of 2025. I came to Beijing in October to begin to lay the groundwork for the recalibrated relationship between Canada and China.
Now, how their system works, they have a premier, which is Premier Li, and then on top of Premier Li is President Xi Jinping. So Xi Jinping at the top, Li is number 2, who's the premier.
Over the course of the next few days, we will discuss the trade relationship between our two countries, and we will also examine other opportunities for collaboration between our two countries, given the strong people-to-people ties between Canada and China.
So she is not downplaying this. She is upplaying the importance of this. This government is dangerous in so many ways. Yes, it is. So moving ahead, we've got Andy Lee posting this. I see you and I know what you're doing. Resharing one of her posts from last year, March 1st, Mark Carney's top donors, Oliver Dasmarias, chair of the Canada-China Business Council, and Scott Bryson, the vice chair of the Canada-China Business Council. And here they are, Oliver and Scott. This is the very same Canada-China Business Council over here. I still haven't filled this one out. I'll be adding those guys' names on there, and likely I'm going to be moving this over to this side here because I'm going to need a lot more space. I have a ton of extra pieces over here that all need to be organized. There's a lot of stuff going on here. We have so many organizations and so many connections to Mary Ng, Justin Trudeau. I've got all the receipts here, all the videos, all the direct Chinese connections here to all these different organizations. The Liberal Party of Canada is so wrapped up in China, it is absolutely disgraceful. And going back to Mark Carney's post here, just landed in Beijing, the relationship between Canada and China has created opportunities and prosperity on both sides of the Pacific. We're ready to build a new partnership, one that builds on the best of our past and responds to the challenges of today. Now, going down memory lane, look at that. It's Jagmeet Singh. Haven't heard a peep out of him since. Back to the election debates. What did Mark Carney have to say about China?
Mr. Carney?
Well, we're in a security section. I think we didn't have a chance to talk about anything internationally. I think the biggest security threat to Canada is China.
China, you say?
Yeah.
Mr. Carney?
Yeah, really? Is that the biggest security threat? Can't make this stuff up. No, you can't. Mark Carney is a liar.
So Prime Minister Mark Carney, who did not speak to reporters upon his arrival, will stay here in Beijing. He will not visit any other city, and his itinerary has no visits to cultural, education, or scientific centers, no people-to-people events, and nothing that even hints that Canada might be concerned about China's record on human rights and democracy. Instead...
Yeah, of course not. I mean, Carney doesn't care about what's going on in our own country. 1 in 4 Canadians going to food banks. It's not like he's going to care about that over there either.
It is all business. A meeting Thursday with Chinese Premier Li Qiang, a meeting Friday with President Xi Jinping, and Carney leaves Saturday. No pandas, no universities, no visits to the Great Wall of China. Carney has one single focus while he's here: increase Canadian non-U.S. exports and find new investors for Canadian energy and infrastructure projects.
So with all this stuff happening today, Mark Carney meeting with some of the Chinese officials today, we have this, which is outrageous. We've got Premier Legault, Francois Legault, resigning. The exit jolts provincial politics ahead of the fall election. Legault, the Premier of Quebec, stepping down.
And handle the province, all the way through the pandemic and otherwise. But this was a pretty steep decline. You mentioned a couple of the things as well. The auto insurance board scandal is something else that plagued his government too, because we really have seen it fall off in the last number of months.
Well, there's the auto insurance scandal, $1 billion of wasted money completely, and a lot of bizarre allegations still yet to be clarified. Also, his signature legacy project was to build a Quebec-based lithium battery sector. And the signature deal was the big Northvolt plant. The federal government was involved. And it was an utter disaster. And François Legault built his reputation on being the man to build up Quebec's economy. And the fact is that that failure, combined also with the healthcare system, he promised a complete overhaul of the healthcare system. That was an utter failure as well. It was just a complete disconnect. And he kept saying our economy is doing well. But at the same time, when you look at inflation, cost of living, housing, it's not connecting with the reality of Quebecers' everyday lives.
We also have Ontario Liberal leader Bonnie Crombie stepping down today. Now, the question one might ask, and one that Melissa is also pointing out here, we have to wonder if this has any coincidence with Mark Carney landing in China today. Don't know, but that is very suspicious. This all happened on the same day.
Bonnie Crombie did not meet expectations. She did not unseat the premier, didn't do as well as they had hoped, but she's in this sort of awkward position, right? Because a large chunk of the party said they didn't want her sticking around as leader. And so does she come out in the spotlight? Is she still the spokesperson when we know that they're already on the hunt to look for someone to replace her? I think that this now sort of is a bit of a clean slate, as you said, for the leadership race. We don't have details on it yet, but names are already coming out for potential contenders, people like Nate Erskine-Smith, MPPs Rob Serjanik, Lee Fairclough, even outsiders like Vikram Honda. So I think people will, the Crombie chapter might be over, but again, we're going to be talking a lot about the Liberals, I think, in the years to come.
If Doug Ford gets a real competitor there and they take some of that NDP share, then Doug Ford may have a real problem trying to keep his position in power. Next up, we got this post from Table Salt, which is very alarming. We can see top 45 countries that Canada spent money in 2024. He's basically laid out the far off ripoff in dollar amounts here. Ukraine, $2 billion. Haiti, humanitarian stabilization money, $200 to $300 million. Gaza, West Bank, $150 to $200 million. Afghanistan, $100 to $200. Ethiopia, South Sudan, Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, Tanzania, Mali, Syria, Yemen, Sudan, Vietnam, India, South Africa, Mozambique, Indonesia, all the way down. Even the bottom here, Togo, $10 to $25 million. Just shuffle the money over there. Goodbye. Never see it again. We'll never get any benefit from most of, if not all of this money. So with that, on this episode of Far Off Ripoff, we've got this $25 million spent on professional skills and youth employability in green sectors. Thanks, Carney. Thanks for nothing. We've got 100% of this money going to Senegal. This project aims to strengthen community resilience by integrating young people, particularly young women, into a sustainable, inclusive economic system that promotes adaptation to seaward change. Okay, yeah. It goes on to say here, nature-based solutions, sustainable practices for biodiversity, conservation, and restoration. The expected outcomes of this project include improved technical and professional skills of vulnerable young women in high potential sectors of the blue and green circular economy, increased adoption of solutions for biodiversity restoration and seaward change adaptation under the leadership of young women. This is ridiculous. $25 million could have gone to food banks to feed our own citizens, and yet they're sending our money over to Africa, insulting Canadians with this kind of garbage. If they have a real paper trail to this, then they should be putting it on here. I should be able to call the organization right off of here. I shouldn't have to go look it up myself. If they just sent over $25 million, then why do these ladies that they're taking photos of here have ripped up clothes? None of them have shoes. $25 million couldn't buy these people shoes? You go to the careers section here, they have a nice fancy camera. Is that where the money went? It sure didn't go to shoes for the people of Senegal there. This stinks of fraud, all of it. Something else happening today is a bunch of job losses coming from the federal government. Statistics Canada is cutting 850 jobs and notifying 3,200 workers and offering early exits to avoid mass layoffs, all in the same day.
Good evening. We begin tonight with breaking news. CTV News has learned layoffs are underway at a major government department. as part of the Liberal government's plan to reduce the size of the public service. Statistics Canada is laying off dozens of employees this week, and hundreds of positions will be eliminated in the coming years. CTV's Stefan Keys joins us now with the latest stuff.
Patricia, CTV News has obtained a memo sent to StatCan employees just this afternoon, which outlines a plan to cut 850 jobs as the department works towards the federal government's goal of finding billions of dollars in savings. According to the memo, 100 positions are immediately affected, and those employees will be notified this week. The plan is to cut another 750 jobs over the next 2 years and to reduce the number of executive positions by 12%. In order to achieve those targets, the government is notifying 3,200 employees that their job may be impacted in hopes that many will voluntarily leave in order to reduce the number of layoffs. The government is offering early retirement incentives and voluntary departure programs to some workers. The size of the department has grown in recent years. In 2019, there were 5,400 employees under Statistics Canada. In 2025, there were more than 7,200. This is just one of several departments notifying employees of upcoming layoffs. Last summer, the federal government asked nearly all departments to find 15% in savings in the coming years. In a statement, StatCan confirms the layoffs and says affected employees will be notified within the next 2 weeks. According to the memo, employees who are impacted will be told by their managers, Patricia.
I wonder how many people losing their jobs here are Mark Carney elbows up voters and how they're feeling about that now. And as this person points out, holy crap, how bloated is the federal government. We're cutting 850 and notifying another 3,200 at Statistics Canada. Only Statistics Canada. Moving ahead, we've got this suspect in a double BC murder arrived in Canada on student visas weeks earlier. That's right. So you had a couple people from South Asia. One of the suspects, Gurkaran Singh, arrived in Canada on a student visa April 16th, less than a month before he started ending people. Arnold de Jong, 77, and his wife Joanne de Jong, 76, were found ended in their home in Abbotsford. Moving on to some world news here, we've got Donald Trump has been warning Iran for quite some time, and while we're seeing a lot of movement, we've got U.S. air bases are quietly clearing out. Reports say U.S. personnel are told to leave the Al-Abeid air base in Qatar, the largest American military hub in the Middle East, by tonight. That base holds around 10,000 troops, and what they typically do is empty out the American air bases because if Iran retaliates, they don't want Americans to get hit by those strikes. They're emptying out the bases, and as we can see from this map, all these red dots are American bases in the Middle East. There's a lot of them.
If we go, meanwhile, got some breaking news. You see this map on your screen. That is where the United States has military bases throughout the Middle East. Now, we can confirm that the U.S. is withdrawing some personnel from major bases across the Middle East due to heightened regional tensions. And you look at some of this in Qatar, that's the Al-Udeid air base. You got about 8,000 to 10,000 U.S. service members. That's one of the larger bases. You got another Army base in Kuwait that's been operating for some time now, several years, if not decades. So how much of withdrawal, we do not know.
And why?
And why is the ultimate question as to whether or not we are in for some sort of military action, possibly in Iran.
It seems very likely that Donald Trump is about to strike Iran and he's going to just rain down the punishment on the Ayatollah. And you can see Iran here, it spans this entire region. So really they can retaliate on any of these targets pretty easily. Big things are happening. Yep, the time is coming. A lot of people are getting wiped out in Iran. You've got these Islamic regime running after protesters and pew-pewing them in the back and stuff like that. It's just completely disgraceful. We've also got Mark Nixon sharing this one. Iran issues a sickening warning, a threat to end Donald Trump's life. This time, it will not miss the target. They are threatening to end Donald Trump. This is not a smart thing to do for Iran because, well, Donald Trump controls all the biggest toys on planet Earth, and he's not afraid to use them.
Saying Iran issues a sickening assassination threat against Trump, quote, this time it will not miss the target. And they also shared a photo of one of the assassination attempts against President Trump. All of this coming as protests continue to escalate in Iran. These are some file video of some of these protests in which reportedly hundreds, if not thousands of people have been killed.
I have a feeling the next 48 hours in Iran is going to be quite something. It's going to get wild, folks. Yep. This is a line in the sand that Trump is not going to ignore. No, he will not. That's the red line. Good luck, Iranian dictators. Probably all Mr. Trump needs to take his first swing and stop the ending of civilians. Yep, Trump is going to end that. In other American news here, we've got CEO of Stellantis just shared company plans of massive investments in their American brands, Ram, Jeep, Dodge, and Chrysler, essentially taking some of that Canadian taxpayer money that the Liberals gave them and now investing it in America.
And we decided since day one that my top priority was to grow and invest in the US, as you mentioned. This is our largest market in the world, so we invested $13 billion in the next 4 years. That's what we announced in our 4 iconic American brands, Ram, Jeep, Dodge, and Chrysler. We will create 5,000 additional jobs in our Michigan, Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio plants. So we are very excited for that. We will create 20,000 additional jobs in our American suppliers.
Trump's strategy is working out in some aspects here, sucking away companies from Canada over to America like Stellantis. Unfortunately for Canadians, they wouldn't have gotten away with this if the Liberals had written the contract to protect Canadians, but they didn't do that. We are getting Chinese EVs, duh. I mean, I don't know. We're going to see what happens here if Carney opens the floodgate for Chinese EVs in Canada. We also have this post coming out of Global Edmonton. 3 teenage girls rescued from SA trafficking situation in Lethbridge, charges laid. This is the state of Canada now. Lethbridge police say one of the teenage girls was confined and repeatedly essayed by multiple men over 3 days, during which she was forced to do street candy. And we have Ezra Levant resharing this, saying UK-style R-word gangs have come to Canada, thanks to the immigration policies of Justin Trudeau and Mark Carney. That's what this is. This is disgusting. We have these R-word gangs in our country now. And we've already got an update on this story. This guy was granted bail. Of course he was, because liberal policies allow monsters to exist in society without any repercussions. This guy should be stuck in a dark pit for all of eternity. All of the guys involved. Put them in a dark pit. See you later. As Wiretap Media posts, it won't be long before Canadians take matters in their own hands, especially in Alberta. You're not going to have Albertan men allow this to run rampant in the province of Alberta. I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. The men of Alberta will solve this problem themselves if the Liberal government and the police forces do not deal with it.